Welcome, everyone, to the Scaletail podcast, where we dive into the world of customer success and share actionable insights and real life learnings of some of the seasoned customer success professionals to help you prosper and thrive in your CS role and drive sustainable growth for your company. If you like listening to this podcast, please do support us by subscribing to the podcast. We are available on all major podcast platforms. Links are in the description. Okay, today we will talk about establishing a strong and influential presence in the digital realm of customer success. I'm your host, Mausmi. I'm the founder and CEO of Zapscale, and I'm thrilled to embark on this journey of unlocking the secrets to building an impactful online presence in CS with our very special guest, Ashna Patel. Ashna Patel is a certified customer success leader with over 10 years of experience in all things customer success, account management, leadership coaching, team building, helping businesses scale. She does everything. Ashna is also the co founder of CS Insider, which is a newsletter for those looking to break into and grow their role as first time leaders. Apart from that, she also runs a book club, participates in local customer success meetups, and also provides coaching services to individuals looking to elevate their CS game and ace their role as first time leaders. Welcome to the podcast, Ashna. Of course, you wear multiple hats, and it isn't possible for me to list down all the wonderful things you do in customer success. So, tell us about yourself and just let us know, how do you do all of this?
Thank you. First of all, Mausmi, thank you so much for having me here. I'm so excited and especially the topic. I mean, it's a topic very close to my heart, so I'm super excited to be here. And thank you for having me. A little bit about me. You've given a good introduction already. So it's I manage a customer success team today, but it's kind of like I manage a customer success team by day, and then by night I'm also like doing other customer success things, kind of. So that's a little bit. Yeah,
you are my superhero, Ashna. You're my superhero.
Yeah.
You do so many things.
I feel like I get that a lot. People like, how do you find time? But it's like, when you're passionate about something, you find time. That's what it is. And I do have a schedule, and I do have a life outside too, and I do have a family, and I work with that too. But it's also before and after. My time dedicated to my work is my time dedicated to work. It's there. But I think it's because I'm so passionate about customer success. It's also something that I do at work, but also something that I do outside of work. It's just, it helps at the end of the day with everything that I can take it back to my work, basically. So working through hours, but then, I'm an early bird. I wake up early, and I'm doing and working on some of those things before or after, or even Saturday morning. Those people who have booked time with me can probably have seen that I am available most of the time on Saturday morning to take a couple calls and coaching calls and whatnot, because that's just, what I'm excited about. That's just what I'm passionate about. And, even at home, that's just something like, that's a ritual that me and my husband has created. He does his own thing on Saturday. I do my own thing on Saturday. And that's just the space that we have. And then we have Sunday to have it for a family. So it's not about how do I do all of this. It's more about, I do have a space for all of that right now. Come back and ask me in 6 months, and it may have changed because, priorities change and things change. So, it's just that. But I think you've given a good introduction about me already. I don't think I can add anything else to that, but I do. I mean, I think I would just say, like, I started my journey in customer success, from sales and account management and having that post-sales kind of a journey. I used to work in a manufacturing firm prior to my current company. That gave me a good understanding of business in general. It's kind of like what it takes, what it takes for even one order or for one customer to be successful, basically, and how each of those departments are connected. And that gave me, kind of like introduction to my own passion about post-sales. And then I came to tech world, and that's when I was like, okay, customer success. And I dove into that. And then that led me to leadership, coaching, and everything. So I'd say all the experience that I've had in the past, it was in, prior to manufacturing firm, I was in hospitality and doing, I've done retail and food and, you name it. But all of that, it was at some point I was interacting with people and working with customers and providing services. So I knew that was going to be my kind of like end goal that I'm going to be working with people. And eventually all of that led me to be who I am today and where I want to go tomorrow. So yeah, that's just a little bit about me.
That is another thing we should talk about maybe some other day, about how do
Yeah.
you manage all of this, and how you have sort of structured your life around work and the things that you do for your own personal professional satisfaction
Yeah.
and family and everything else.
Yeah.
That's amazing. I follow you, of course, on LinkedIn, and I've been following you for quite some time. I have seen the CS Insider and all the book clubs and all the activities that you do. So what I really want to ask is, this started at some point, right? I mean, so when do you start with your entire LinkedIn effort and, being so active in CS? And I am aware that you have helped so many young people trying to break into CS, to sort of give them a guidance. So how did you go about, starting this entire journey? Because a lot of people talk to me often and they say, how do we make our LinkedIn presence and how do we go about it? So
Yeah.
this is something, is a journey which you have done absolutely amazingly.
Thank
Today, I mean, your presence is like an important part of my LinkedIn daily schedule, right? That's how
you.
it is. So I really want to know, how did you go about
Yeah.
it?
Yeah. So as I was telling you a little bit about, I think it has a little bit more about who you are, what you want to do, and it's more about like, what's your why? Why do you want to have this presence online, or create a brand, you name it, whatever, whichever. I think you need to really understand your why. And I didn't have all knowledge of my why, and I just kind of started. But this was around when pandemic hit, I would say 2020, and I just kind of stumbled across. I would say I was going through a little bit of a change at work too, and I was moving into leadership role, and that was also the time when I was like, okay, there's my leaders at works are teaching me and are going to be teaching me. They're amazing, and I get so much support from them. But but I still wanted to just learn, and I wanted to kind of use the knowledge that I have to kind of like expand that knowledge, but also share the knowledge, but also at the same time take more knowledge. And and obviously LinkedIn being the professional social media or network, whatever you want to say it. I started to kind of just search for a couple of things. I think I attended. I think there was like a conference or something. I thought it was customer success conference or something that was happening. I think it was 2019, around the end of the year, 2019 or something along the lines of like it was virtual or. I think I just stumbled across that, and I signed up for a couple of webinars, and I may have attended recording of that. I could have attended the webinar, but I heard some people talking, and I was like, I think there was something about customer success manager. I vaguely remember, but there was something I was like, wait a minute, I can, share some of my practices because I've, dove into, because I'm one of the person, again, that goes back to my why. I'm one of the person that I led by example, and I'm, I see something, I'm like, okay, how do we figure this out? How do we, break it down? And that's how I was with my manager, work it out. And that led me to even to be in a leadership role and a lot of those other things. So kind of became my passion, my work, and all of that came about. And I just started and then I started to follow those people that were in the conference. And then that led me to, it's just like a global, I'm like, I was amazed by how many people were there and they were sharing things. And I was like, and I didn't even start sharing anything. I just started by commenting and liking and learning. It's kind of like you want to test the water of like where you're going in. So I started commenting and learning about it. I would wake up early and I would look at my LinkedIn, and I'd spend a few half an hour or something, or like after hours after work I would be going on it and kind of checking it out. And then from there, I think even for a month or so, I just commented and I liked and I kind of built and I added people in my network and whatnot. And then I started posting some of the thoughts that I've had about, some of the few things, and I started seeing, interactions and whatnot. So that's really kind of where my content journey or LinkedIn journey started. But I gave myself time to dive into kind of seeing, what others were saying. Where is my voice in this, basically? Because I didn't want it to just repeat what others were saying, because you will find a lot of chaos,
of course,
as well. but it's like you have to discover your own voice. And then that helped me kind of like, I want to share what I've learned so far and my journey to becoming a leader and something along the lines of that. And then also as I continue to grow as a leader, I wanted to continue to share those practices and whatnot. And that's how, and then eventually I met Brandon at CS Insider, and he's had this idea, and it just like opportunities came up, and I grabbed what I could and how much I could. And then because pandemic really helped, because we weren't traveling, we weren't doing anything, and we were just home. And then, so even my weekends were really filled with, oh, I'm going to create content, or I'm going to, do this book club or that. That's kind of how it started. Eventually slowed down. Like you have to reprioritize, obviously, but that's really how it started. But it kind of came about, knowing what I wanted to do, where I wanted to go, being intentional about it, and then seeking opportunities and taking what was good for you, basically, with this opportunity.
I think a few nuggets that I see is, number one, be very clear of why you want to do it. Mm-hmm. Your why is so super crystal clear. You wanted to 100%. Share knowledge that you had, and you wanted to gain knowledge from the people who are sharing. And that is a very good place to start with in terms of being able to create sense of what you're going to do. That's step one, I believe, if somebody figures out why they are going to do it. And the second is, what are you going to talk about? And that is very important. It's not just that, I want to go on LinkedIn and start talking about things. You have to figure the areas where you excel at, or you have that deep knowledge where you are sharing something original or something very genuine that you have learned over the years.
Yep. And storytelling and experiences works way better than people connect with storytelling. People connect with experiences, and we're human at the end of the day. Even in customer success, you talk about, and we're doing relationship building. What do? We're telling stories, based on data, based on things that have happened. If I was put in a certain situation, how did I handle that? What were the challenges that came across? What action did I take? What was the results of it? What are my lessons learned? That becomes your content, because that's the story that you can tell, and people are learning from these stories. It's not about just like, I've read this and I have this mentality, and there's that a little bit too. I read books and I talk about that, or I attend webinars, but it really comes down to whatever that you're trying to say. How does it resonate with you, and how is it going to resonate with the audience? Is it going to benefit them? That's the question that you want to ask every time you're creating content. It's like, how is it going to benefit your audience, and who is your audience? I think you really have to define that. Yes. That for me, my audience was customer success managers and also first-time leaders, because I'd gone through that path and I wanted to talk about that. And then and I became an audience for leaders of leaders, because I wanted to be that tomorrow. So it's kind of like, you really need to know your audience. And then every time I put a post or put something or content or share something, there was a question that I have for myself. It's like, how is it going to benefit them? Because it's about them. It's not about you or your story. It's about them, because that's what's going to help you build a network and brand.
So how did you go about learning? Because storytelling itself is an art, right? You can have an idea, but how you put it together in terms of a story so that somebody reads, not only finds it valuable, but also entertaining, because it needs to, it needs to read in a way which you really enjoy. So is this something you inherently had, or you had to sort of polish it?
Trial and error, I would say. There was a lot of it's, you learn and multiple, and that's what the things about, if I'm just talking about, networking on LinkedIn, I think that's you're going to see a lot of how they say the word is A/B testing. You're going to do a lot of testing. You're going to start at whatever time, and you're going to post about something, and you'll see what the reaction of people. But at the end of the day, there are certain, key factors, I would say. And when it's about storytelling, obviously, stories are built on data. And I'd say, for me specifically, when I go back to this customer success, every time you say, and you may even find some posts on this, I used to talk a lot about, and I still do, about, emotional intelligence and customer success. And then I would say customer success equals data plus feelings, because data is there. datas are there, but data doesn't tell you everything. Data helps you define a story, and story tells you the actual, like it's a combination of all that. So going back to your question is, when it comes to storytelling, you have to rely that on a certain data, which is why experiences are good, or you're referencing something, or you're talking about based on some of your thoughts or assumptions that you've made. So it's a structure basically. Okay, what you want to have a compelling kind of like not a title, but like a start. It's like, it could be a discovery. It could be like an end goal. Here's an outcome. Then I'm going to tell you, break it down. It's like, what did I do to get there? It could just be like, here's a question. And then here's my kind of like, I'm going to break it down to like, what are the steps that I take? And you'll find a lot of like, and again, I've done that too, like top 7, whatever, or top 10, whatever. I mean, that's good. It's there. But I've also done a great job of like, here's a framework I've created, and here's how I would, share. And then you ask a question. There's also, LinkedIn, it's not just about how many people liked your post or impressions and stuff. It's about interactions, because you want to have interactions. That's where learning happens. That's what I want. I don't like, if you give me 1,000 likes and I'd be like, okay, that's good. But if I have 100 comments, I'm going to be super happy, because that's where interaction happens. And, so it's like, you want to make it compelling enough that it drives conversation, basically. So tell your story, and then ask like if it resonates with other people, or if there is something else that they would want to add. When you're sharing thoughts and advices, you don't want to put it on someone. It's an advice, it's what you're sharing. So be open to take critics or feedback, whether they're good or bad. Be open to take that and have a strategy to kind of write back to that. I think that's a whole thing about I guess social media content, working with that or not.
So let me just put it all together.
Yeah.
So number 1, figure out your why. Most important. Number 2, who you're going to talk to. Right? Who is your audience, who you want to talk to, and who you want to listen to, both ways, because LinkedIn is a place where you can learn, and as well as, share your knowledge.
You have to.
Yes. Yep. And then think about, what do you want to talk about? What is your niche, or what is it something that you really understand, where you have real life experiences? Bring those stories into the conversation. And 4th, it seems, is being very persistent, as in being added day after day after day. As you said, you started with like first entire month just absorbing into the LinkedIn space, commenting, reading, getting in to know what was happening around, what people are talking about, and what areas where you feel, okay, here I can contribute maybe. And maybe you said that you started with commenting first to see if that drives conversation and it brings value to others as well. So that persistent and being consistent over a period of time, I mean, it's been few years for you to reach the scale and level at which you are right now. And I assume it has been a consistent effort all this time, being at it with all the many things that, happen in life.
Yeah. You're so right about that. And yes, being consistency is the key. You want to have it. But then again, I think there's a couple of things that I would add on that too. One is life doesn't stop, so don't make it, because don't have it, or don't get into a space where you're just doing it for the sake of doing it, because you have to be consistent and you have to be persistent. Like I can't stop not posting something today because whatever. Like life doesn't, make sure your priorities are straightened. And I think that's what I kind of go back to. And then second is just it's, again, I think related to what I just mentioned, is it's about what you post and what again, going back to the why you're doing this. It's like, I wanted to share, but I also wanted to learn, and I wanted to network, and I wanted to expand on that. So as I started posting, and if I'm also not just posting and commenting, but if I find someone else, like I knew whose audience I was, who I wanted to follow and whatnot, I would then take it to a step further. It'd be like, I would maybe send them a message or something, or do a little chat with them, because I wanted to learn more about something of that. And that was my initiative. It's not just about posting, is where the networking and branding happens. It's like, what do you do? What else do you do? on it, with it. Or I've done like on weekends, I've done like brainstorming sessions with so many of them and be like, okay, I have this topic and I really want to kind of talk about this. Would you be interested in joining this? And we've done some of those too. And so it's kind of like what else you want to do to elevate that, your reasons, your why. Mine was I wanted to learn. And then thank them and it's because people are giving your time and whatnot, and that's also another place. So it wasn't just about posting and again, it's there that helps you want to be consistent, but again, it's like my why was a lot more around learning and building my network. Even more than my personal brand, it was more about having a group of people in my network that I can go to in my kind of like a profession, than just building a brand or writing something. So
creating those genuine connections that you have been able to over a period of time, right?
Exactly. Yeah, that's what it is.
So I assume that, because you created such genuine connections and network, a lot of other things that you do, just have sort of come into various forms and opportunities. So I want to understand, like, as you went through this journey, obviously you started alone, but as you went along, you created connections and you had friends join in. And I know that you do a lot of activities with different people in different groups. So how did that come about?
Yeah. I think it's also just an opportunity. It's I've been, and I'd say this is how I grow. And again, you're one of my, call it a skill set or whatever that may be. Leading by example. It's just like, it's, I have this ability, call it ability or skill set or whatnot, but like I would see if there's a gap in something, then you want to do something about it. So when I started to have a good network, then I was like, okay, I do have this, not necessarily a power, but it's more like I had this opportunity and ability that I could, create. And that's kind of how when CS Insider opportunity came, I signed up for it because I'm like, hey, I've been through this pool, I've been through this road, and if I've had some newsletter or something that I could follow when I was trying to break into customer success and that I could plead about and do something, that would have been great. So yes, I wanted to join that. So it's kind of like, again, even everything that came along the way that I signed up for, somewhere or the other, it was tying back to my why and why I wanted to do that. So, and it could be different for anyone. I mean, you could be doing this because you want to eventually go work for that, work for whatever company, and you look for a job opportunity. You could be doing this because you really genuinely just want to create a personal brand. You could be doing this because you're starting a new business and you want to kind of, have that exposure out there. So understand your why. And another thing I would say, it's like, it can change over time, like whatever that you start with today, you don't always have to just create content and things just for that. It can evolve to something else tomorrow. Be open to that. But it's really about when the opportunity came, I would then kind of like, okay, does this really, is this just an opportunity for me to just do something, or does it also tie back to my vision and what I wanted to do and my why? And so I signed up for those things, and some opportunities I was able to create and some opportunities came to me. Some I signed up for and I was like, okay, this is too much, I can't do this right now, or I think enough, a short period of kind of contribution was good enough, and I kind of moved on from them, because at the end of the day, I've had my full-time work, obviously, and then this other things is so I wouldn't necessarily say like everything I'm doing today or everything you may have heard about it is something I've always been doing. No, we started a book club, we read a couple of books, then we put a pause on it for 6 months or 7 months, then we picked up another book, and then another pause, and then we picked up one more book. And it's eventually we were like, oh, we're going to read 3-4 books in a year, but then we're like, no, we can only do one at a time, so we're going to do that. Or when an opportunity comes up, and we'll do it again. So it's kind of like that. It's just, it wasn't always opportunities kept coming and I just signed up for everything. No, it needed to tie it back to and then you kind of also, it's like a trial and error. Like, you try and you learn and you kind of work on it. That's kind of how it is.
Ashna, What I want to know now is a little more
Yeah.
tactical as to how do you
Yeah.
plan your, whatever you're doing, so many things. How do you plan and go about it? Do you have a strategy of what you would be doing on a daily basis on LinkedIn, like especially for people? So once they have strategically thought through why they want to do it, who are they going to talk to? How are they going to talk about? What is the topic that they're going to talk, which makes sense and it's genuine. It's not just putting stuff, but creating a story with basic data and facts. Now
Yeah.
comes the tactical plan as to, how do I plan it? How do I plan my
Yeah.
week? How do I plan my month? What is
Yeah.
my day-to-day process? So is there a process that you follow?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I used to, I guess, create a lot more content on LinkedIn than I do today, I would say. So I'll tell you about that time. So even today, I think I have this habit of creating my to-do list. So my to-do list for tomorrow, I created at the end of today, at the end of the day today. So that's just the habit that I have. So same thing with when it comes to content creating, it's like, you want to plan ahead. So sometimes I take my Sunday afternoon or as I'm prepping for my next week, it's personal and this professional stuff. Like I might be making my list of like, what am I going to cook for the day, for the whole week. And then on the other side, I'd be like, okay, what post or content I'm going to create? I may create some content. I mean, there's LinkedIn came out with, like, even right now recently came out with this send later option. So you could
Yes.
create your content and just schedule it on the time. So a lot of time it feels like, oh, you're scheduling it at whatever time, but I'm like, no, or sending it at whatever time, but no, it's like you can schedule it basically. So then some of those strategy, I'd be like, okay, if this week I'm going to talk about this topic, then here's a couple posts that I'll talk about this, or I've read this book, or I've attended this webinar and I want to talk about that and something like that. So you can plan it ahead. I think that's what it is dedicated time in your week, after hours, before your work, after hours, obviously, or on the weekend. Weekends probably like worked for me, obviously, because Sunday afternoon or Sunday evening was like my time to kind of prep for my next week, and I would create my content. And then if I wanted to do it during the week, then it'd be like, at the end of the day, after when I'm winding down, ready to go to bed, and I would, write up my something. And then I would dedicate, like, before my work hours, whatever, I would, I have it go out, post them earlier in the day. So with LinkedIn, and there's a lot of strategies with it too, but like the first 90 minutes are critical, or I think it's the first 60 minutes are critical. So it's like, if you are posting something and you want some, responses back and whatnot, you want to kind of, make sure that you're organizing that. So I posted very early in the day so that I can, respond a little bit, then I'd be doing my work and then wrapping up at the end of the day. So things like that is you really want to kind of have it planned. But for me particularly, I relied on weekends and after hours a lot, because that's when I knew I wanted to. But I did it. I used, right now there's a send later button, but then before there's other tools
Yes.
that you could schedule it and whatnot. Or even if not scheduling it, I would make sure my post and my content is ready for me to post it out and the next day. So that's where it is. And then also, like, okay, if I remember, I used to another thing, it's like you can use project management tools and whatnot. I used to use Trello. I used to use it for work, and I used to also use it for this a lot. So I'd be like, okay, here's my post, and then if there were some good communication and comments on it, then it gives me opportunity to be like, oh, I could be talking about this topic the next time. I would, make a note of that and use Trello to kind of manage it for me. But then I would also have a board of like, okay, based on some of the interactions that I've had here and there, here are some of the people that I want to reach out to and have a one-on-one. And that's kind of like another strategy that I've had to build and learn from people and network. So that's also something you could do. Yeah. But it really comes down to, how do you manage your day, basically?
You make all of this sound so easy. It definitely isn't. The way you talk about it, you make it sound so easy and simple, the way you have managed and structured everything. But it requires a lot.
It does. And I will tell you, there's a fine line between just doing a lot and getting exhausted and doing it in the right amount. So, that's also something I've learned hard way, and I had to really put a pause on it. And so it's, once you start doing and you're passionate about it and you're a rhythm, I mean, there is a fine line between that. So I'm not seeing like my line can be different than, whoever else is doing this line. It's just be conscious about, you, and that's why I go back to priorities a lot. It's like if you need to give yourself a pause, give yourself a pause. Nobody, it isn't something you're doing it for, you're not going to get an award or something, based because you've been doing it so consistently. It's really about what you want to do. And so it's like, make sure your priorities are aligned and then you're working through them, and then just create a schedule and, it's almost like a habit stacking. Like I've had this habit and I start with this and I do this and I do that. And then that's my end of my day. It works so many days and sometimes it doesn't work. There were weeks in between that I'd be like, okay, I just don't want to do anything. I'm just going to go and maybe like or comment or something, but I don't feel like posting anything. That's okay. I think it's really, and that's why I go back to like priorities and fine lines. Like you're not proving anything to anyone. You're doing it for your own reasons, and just make sure that you're aware of that. And when you need to take a break, take a break. And when you need to change something, maybe you started talking about something and you're like, okay, I'm actually passionate about something else. That's fine. It's just content creation, personal brand, and it can evolve. And I think be open to that. That's what I would say.
A few people who've been talking to me about, that I want to create my personal brand. And, the first question I asked is why? Like, why do you want to do this? Like, what do you want to achieve by doing this? Right now, what they sometimes I've heard is that since I am heading customer success in XYZ company, I believe that if I have a personal brand on LinkedIn, I will have a better situation when I talk to my customers. I will have a better elevated sort of a position where they understand that I know what I'm talking about. Now, have you seen this, or do you feel that this makes sense? Does it really matter? Because there are a lot of people writing about customer success, and there's some really good people, and there are others who are sort of coming up. But not everybody can write, all original stuff, right? It's not possible.
Yeah.
Stories and experiences, always original, agreed.
Yeah.
But then strategic things and how things need to be done, it can be very different, and it may not be always original, and it's just for the sake of going on LinkedIn and posting makes no sense. It's a waste of your time and energy. So does really having a persona on the platform really help in your day-to-day work? Noticing by a new company makes sense, I get that, but current job that you're doing, does it really help? And have you seen it anywhere?
Yeah. So I'll answer this in a good question. I'd say like, it depends. And when I say this, it's like, also depends on what you're, creating content about, what you're posting. Depends about what sort of industry do you come from or you work in. Depends about if has what sort of customers you work with, what's your ICP. Depends on a lot of things, basically, because there isn't just like, just because you're going to do this and that's going to elevate your game. You could, it may not, if your product, your industries are completely aloof, that has nothing to do with you building a presence on customer success, then it's not going to support you that much. But well, it can help you, because, and this is where I even talk about my personal experience, is like the network helps you not just giving you learning opportunity, also helps you feel more confident. It gives you more abilities to some of your skill set, you can enhance them. If you had asked me about doing podcast, or even speaking in front of a large group of people and doing a virtual like workshops and speaking just in general, if you have asked me that 3 years ago, I'd be like, I just do it at work. I would tremble a little bit, but because it gave me opportunities and that helped me. So it became, I wouldn't necessarily say it became easier, but like it really helped me to feel more confident when I was going and presenting something in front of my team or in front of our company. So that's kind of, it elevated. I learned things. I've attended, office hours and webinars where I've learned things that I was able to take and then I would be able to kind of like plug that into kind of, okay, we have this situation. Here's something what I learned. How can I do this? And I've taken so much back into my own company with that. And that just could be like how I I work as a leader. I've learned when I became a leader, I've spoken with a lot of CS leaders, and they gave me some good advice and they mentored me in a couple ways, and that helped me. My own leader, my managers, still helped me internally, but that also kind of there were some of the things that I was able to take, and then I started talking about what I do, and I know. And when I coach people, and I know they're able to take it back and then help them. So it's really kind of like, it may not directly help you to your day to day, but it can help you in your what you're trying
overall
to achieve, how as an individual. So yeah, if you are a VP of customer success, and if you're creating strategies and doing something and you talk about that, then you're going to go and talk to 5 more people that are doing other strategies, and then that's going to help you learn about something that you may be able to take it back to your organization. Be like, okay, we've been trying in this way, well, let's kind of try in the other way, which the other industry person was able to do it. So it's not about just it's going to help you in your day to day, but it may help you in the long run. It may help you in your own professional growth. And it's more than just looking for a job. I mean, believe me, I think that's the mentality that a lot of people have.
Yeah.
It's like, you go on LinkedIn because you're looking for a job. No, I've been on LinkedIn for I don't even know how long. And no, I've been doing it because I want to elevate my game in my job, and I want to, learn and continue to invest in learning, because there's a lot of things that they don't teach you in books.
Yes.
And, in school and whatever. And you learn, and I learned by, listening and seeing in action and whatnot. So that's what it is. You can learn and then you can elevate your game. And so that's what it is.
I think that's a very good point for our closing, Ashna, that, if you want to go on LinkedIn and think about creating a personal brand, don't start from there. Start from the thought process of increasing your network, increasing your knowledge, and of course, connecting with a lot of people who might really help you in your own personal growth in whichever walk of life you choose, whatever work you're doing. I think that thought process needs to be the first thing, instead of thinking I'm going to be a brand on LinkedIn. That is not what LinkedIn is for. For that, maybe you can try Instagram and do some funny videos.
And I think LinkedIn's algorithm is also designed in a way, if I remember, I was reading some post about it the other day. I think I shared with you guys too. But the way the algorithm is like, it is designed so that you're not just posting and creating content, you're also collaborating on other people's content too. So if you're posting one content, go and comment on 5 more people and on other people's content. Because you don't want to just give, you also want to get in return, like, and that's what matters. Like, if you get 5 from 5 people and then you collaborate on it and then you post on one, that becomes, better reach. And that's how the algorithm is also, I want to say, designed. Again, I don't know much about the algorithm, but I think that's what it is. It's like, it's not just about your content, it's about collaborating. And that's part of brand building, is not just about you. It's actually not even about you. It's about them, who you're building your brand for. Yeah.
It helps you create, it's sort of, as far as I understand, I also don't understand the LinkedIn algorithm much, but what I understand is sort of fosters the urge to create a very powerful network in which everybody grows together. Yep. That's the idea of it. It's not that you sort of start posting and you have a personal brand and you have a following. It's more about a community coming together, creating that network and creating those genuine connections where true knowledge can be shared or put online, where different people sort of can, in scientific term, do sort of peer review of whatever you're putting. And that peer review sort of brings a very valuable thing at the end of it.
Yeah. Yeah. That's
wonderful, Ashna. Wonderful. It was great to have you on the podcast today. I must say, this was one of the most interesting discussions I've had, and with somebody who's actually done it on her work and has created a huge presence. And the most interesting part is why, in which the idea of the entire creation of the network and why Ashna went about doing it. I think for all my listeners, it's very important to dig deep and think about what and why you want to do it. It was great to have you on the podcast today, Ashna. I'm sure the listeners were able to gain valuable knowledge and inspiration to take their digital presence to new heights. It was an absolute privilege to feature you on Scale Tail podcast. And to the
Thank you so
listeners,
much.
you're welcome, Ashna. And to the listeners, do not forget to follow Ashna on LinkedIn. Check out her website, csinsider.co. Trust me, it has hugely valuable information. There's also another LinkedIn post that Ashna just mentioned. She shared with me, and it was about the LinkedIn algorithm and how you can leverage it to increase your impressions. We'll share all the links in the description. Do check them out. And if you find the podcast valuable, it would greatly appreciate your support. Please subscribe, leave us a review, share it with fellow CS members who can benefit from this empowering content. Stay tuned for our next episode, and do share if there are any specific topics that you want to talk about, and we'll search for experts who have done it and share practical insights. Have a great rest of the day. Bye bye.
Thanks, everyone. Thank you. Thanks for having me.